Hi, my name is Mark Crawley and welcome to Diversita Connect. Today we are going to talk about a recruitment cheat sheet, and it was inspired actually by one of our community when they shared something that they were giving to organizations alongside their application. So something around almost like an explanation of some of the things that you may need to perform at your best. So what we're going to try to do today is we'll go through some of these steps and see how we can start to build something that really could hopefully help you during your recruitment process or post onboarding once you start a role, and getting this openness out there. Now, it's not going to be perfect and it's a bit of a starting position, but hopefully it will be useful. So thanks again for our community for sharing their experiences on our general chat on Diversita Connect, because it really helped. So we're going to go through this today and hopefully it will be useful for some of our community. So what we're looking to do here is essentially reinforce the disclosure statement. So obviously we are disclosing in this instance, which obviously is a personal choice and you don't always have to do. But this cheat sheet turns this disclosure into almost a professional performance strategy that helps you self-advocate from day one. Now, again, this is a bit of a starting position, so we don't expect it to be absolutely perfect. But what we like the idea of here at Diversita is to get you to start thinking about putting on paper the things that could help you during certain parts of your job search, particularly the application process, and of course once you start a role afterwards. So this is intertwined with disclosure. So this cheat sheet, or this document, which is also, I suppose, around self-advocacy and self-promotion and educating organizations, will be almost a working document that you build up over time. So the first thing we'll talk about is mastering your communication, right? Or clearly defining your communication style so the recruitment team knows exactly how you prefer to receive instructions. And this can start to hopefully reinforce or define interview processes. Do you like literal instructions? Do you prefer a passage of information that you like to dissect? Do you prefer instructions in advance, right? Or questions in advance? All of these things go into this, and we'll show you a working example near the end of this podcast or webinar. But ultimately, this is really about, again, you being open about the way that you like to receive instructions and the way you also like to communicate your answers. So this mastering communication is very, very important, and obviously is very key, particularly in interview processes where a lot of that process is often verbal, right? So again, this is a great opportunity for you to start putting out some preferences there. Now, of course, this is a work in progress, and it might be that what works for you now may not work for you in the future. It might be what works for you in one particular instance. After you try it, you think, you know what, I need to rethink this. So again, it's one of those things that you reevaluate every time. Another thing to articulate is about your ideal interview environment in particular. So specify the environment that you need to ensure that you're judged on your talent, not on these other abilities like handling peripheral noise or a bright room or a particular stressful video call with the camera on. So again, you can put these preferences in. There's always going to be, some, I would say, some practical obstacles around this, right? There's going to be some things that maybe are not possible based around the circumstances and how you're being qualified for the job. But the idea here is to put forward preferences, right? And you can tailor these for different interviews and different environments, etc. But specifying what your ideal environment is gives you at least an opportunity to communicate this. Now, if there's a very, very good reason as to why it can't be accommodated, then obviously you need to maybe to discuss that with the person. Thomas, I'm just going to do that bit again, actually. So if there's a reason that this can't be accommodated, then of course, hopefully you'll be given a very good reason by the organization or the interview team or the hiring team. But ultimately, putting through this preference about the environment that suits you best, again, can really start to help you. And again, you're starting to see now, you could build a picture really of these type of things that could help you. So far we're up to 2. Another thing that would be great to communicate is peak performance conditions. So this is probably more applicable when you start a role, but having deep work blocks or written briefs that give you an overview about what instructions are needed to perform a particular task. Very important. I think the peak performance conditions one, if I think about myself, I work incredibly well in certain blocks of the day. And I don't think it's unreasonable to sort of put this into your recruitment cheat sheet. It's also a good opportunity to talk about the times of day where you may be more effective for your interview. And I don't think that's any type of sort of modification of circumstances or anything like that or cheating. This is ultimately an opportunity for you to show your skill set, right? And show your skill set in the best light. And that's what interviews are. So if it means you're better in the mornings between 9 and 11 or 8 and 10, then that's the time you should be putting down. In terms of what it's like when you start a role, of course, you'd like to think that you're given the opportunity to say, I tend to work well with holistic targets when I can sort of work at times of the week when suit me, but I always get the job done. I always meet the deadlines, etc. Just maybe not in the sort of 9 to 5 fashion in the way you operate. So starting to think about the times of day when you're most effective is, again, something you would start to put down on this cheat sheet going forward. Something else to talk about really in this is about these adjustments. They should almost be reframed as efficiency tools or modifications, or this is how you get the best out of me. And they're relatively minor, right? They really, really are. And more organizations are starting to understand that they need to create different platforms for people to showcase their strengths and abilities. So I don't think it's unreasonable to discuss these adjustments as strengths, right? If you make these adjustments, you will see my strengths. In themselves, these adjustments are strengths because it's me articulating what I need to perform at my best, right? And not everyone has the confidence and the self-awareness and the self-knowledge to do that. I do, right? So you're framing the adjustments as strengths. And it's really important that organizations, hiring teams, etc., understand that this is an essential part of the process for them to see the best of you. It's not always going to be fully understood, right? So I think that's just to manage expectations. But the more confident you get with it, the more organizations start to understand neuroinclusivity and neurodiversity and different ways of thinking and different ways of demonstrating your abilities, then I suppose the more chance you have of these landing well when you start articulating them. So to definitely frame adjustments as strengths or tools that will give organizations the opportunity to see the best of you. So submitting your cheat sheet, right? Submitting your document, again, is quite important. It can be incorporated into a cover letter, right? So a lot of organizations will ask for a cover letter alongside your CV. It can be something that you manually add in front of your CV. So it's almost like a cover page that goes alongside your CV if there is no cover note requested. I think, again, though, going back to one of the more recent webinars or podcasts where we discussed identifying neuro-inclusive companies, particularly for 2026, it's almost intertwined in that. So once you do find an organization that you feel comfortable to disclose to, we've got a statement there about why you're disclosing. This is a little bit more detail behind that. Now, again, we have to be reasonably practical here, that you can't maybe go into too much detail for an organization because there's a certain amount of time they will have to digest all of this, but you certainly want to articulate things that are really important to you to make sure that you have the opportunity to showcase your strengths. And if you can build something that's very easy to tailor or reduce or increase as and when you need to, then that can really help. So again, where you actually put this cheat sheet or where you actually put this information, as I say, either attach it to the front of your CV by default, attach it into a cover note letter. If there's, when you get an opportunity on an application where it says, is there anything else you'd like us to know or any other requests, you put it in there. Wherever you put it, as long as you've got an opportunity to submit it. So I'm just going to go through a bit of a working example here. So for example, we could start the sort of the cover letter or the cheat sheet or this addendum or whatever we want to call it, with why I've shared this with you. And one example passage would be, I'm highly committed to delivering high quality work. This user manual, for want of a better phrase, helps us bypass communication gaps and ensures I can perform at my absolute peak during the interview and beyond. Now, the user manual statement in that instance is very personal, right? Not everyone wants to use it like that or articulate like that, but it may be a way of starting to get organizations to understand it, particularly if they're not as au fait with neuroinclusivity as they should be. My communication style would be the next part. Direct and literal. I work best with clear, concise instructions. I may miss subtext or hints, so please be as specific as possible with expectations. Processing time. My brain processes information deeply. In meetings, I may need a time to reflect before providing an answer, or I may follow up via email with a more detailed response. Written over verbal. I am most articulate in writing. Providing a brief summary of a task via email ensures I don't miss any crucial details. And what you can see here is all of these are obviously a little bit more focused around working within an organization once you've got the job, but they're all very, very transferable, I'd say, to an interview process as well. The next one would be my optimal interview environment. Structure is key. I perform best when I know the rules of the game. Again, we're talking in a bit of a language that we think organizations may understand. Having a clear agenda or the themes of the questions 24 hours in advance allows me to give you relevant, well-structured examples. Talking about questions in advance there. Sensory management. I am sensitive to high stimulus environments. For an in-person interview, a quiet room with natural light is ideal. For video calls, I may use a noise-cancelling headset to maintain focus. Again, to articulating what can be very, very challenging for a lot of individuals, particularly autistic individuals. The sensory challenges, you have the opportunity here to say, okay, this is something that could really help me. The last one on this would be body language. I may not always make traditional eye contact when I'm thinking deeply or processing a complex question. Please know this is a sign of intense focus on a task, not a lack of interest. So now we're starting to make sure that if you did an interview and you were making eye contact, then you know that the interviewer understands that you are in fact listening. The next one would be strengths I bring to a team. Pattern recognition. I naturally spot anomalies, beg your pardon, and trends in data that others often overlook. High integrity. I'm a logical thinker and tend to be very honest and transparent in my reporting. Deep focus. Once I'm in the flow state, I have an exceptional ability to work on complex tasks for long periods without losing accuracy. Again there, so some of these areas here are quite unique to neurodivergent minds. So having the opportunity to educate here and putting them on your cheat sheet and thinking these are things that if you give me the opportunity to showcase are going to be hugely beneficial is, I think, very, very key to this document. Next part would be reasonable adjustments for success. Written briefs. Following verbal instructions with a quick bulleted email really helps. Clear deadlines. Moving please from ASAP to Thursday at 4 p.m. That's specific, logical, very literal instruction, very, very important. Quiet zones. The option to use noise-cancelling headphones in an open plan office to maintain productivity can be very useful for me. So again, what you're doing here is just giving a few examples of things that can really help. And if I'm a manager or an interviewer and I'm looking at these, I'm not overwhelmed by these. I think, you know what, these are very, very straightforward to accommodate. And it seems, based around the previous information, that these are the things that will really help this person showcase these fantastic strengths they have. Not trying to be too idealistic here, but I think what we're trying to do here is make this into something what both parties are very comfortable with. And that's quite important, I would suggest, at the moment. It's difficult sometimes to be too dictatorial with organizations because you don't know what their knowledge level is going to be. No one's saying that organizations shouldn't be accommodating all these. Of course they should. But there is also a situation sometimes when we have to navigate the current environments. So what's the next steps on this, right? So we'll add this to the webinar collection where you can comment or ask questions. We have the live webinar discussion at 6 p.m. On the Wednesday after this webinar goes out, and this is usually at 1 p.m. on a Monday. So what we do is we put this out as a recorded webinar, and then at 6 p.m. on the following Wednesday, we have a live discussion to talk about the content. Very, very exciting, and it's quite new for us recently as well. Please let us know anything you would add or any personal experiences. And again, thank you so much for some of the examples that I saw in the general chat. This really inspired this webinar. And of course, please, if you ever want to share your cheat sheet or the things that you're starting to put down to accompany your interviews and accompany your applications, then we'd love to see it. And of course, you can use direct messaging service if you have a situation you'd like advice on. Now, obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this as a podcast, please subscribe. Well, it'd be fantastic to continue to have your support around these. And if you haven't already, please join us at Diversita Connect community, the digital platform we have. Everything goes out at least a week before. You will hear it on as a podcast or watch it on YouTube. So please join us, and obviously you can engage in all the monthly meetups and the live chats and all of these other great things as well. So again, thank you so much for today. I'm really excited to see if we see any examples of these cheat sheets or these documents or these disclosure statements or whatever we want to call them. But yeah, very, very excited about the possibility of these and making sure that we have the opportunity every day to educate organisations about the strengths and the accommodations that we need sometimes to show the best versions of ourselves. So thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you on the next webinar or podcast. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. And scan the QR code to join the Diversita Connect community.